Hi all, today we are going to learn about weathering and its types. First of all, what is weathering? It may be defined as the process of decay, disintegration and decomposition of rocks under the influence of certain physical, chemical and biological agencies. Such as the rock may changes into other different forms under the influence of physical changes, chemical changes, alteration in its chemical composition and biological process, that is both acting together, that physical and chemical process. Then we can know about what is disintegration. It may be defined as the process of breaking up of rocks into smaller pieces by the mechanical agencies or physical agents. That is, rock may break down into small pieces. That is, then decomposition. It may be defined as the process of breaking up of mineral constituents from a new component by the actions of the physical agent. That is means when these rocks break up into different pieces, it may also change some of its mineral properties. So the minerals present in the rocks may alter due to the chemical actions in the rock. Then we can look into three types of weathering. What are the three types of weathering in it? That is, first one is physical, second one is chemical, and third one is biological weathering. So in detail we can look into it. What is physical weathering? It is also known as mechanical weathering. It takes place when a rock is split or broken into smaller pieces of the same material without changing its chemical composition. That in simple words, if a large boulder, it may break down into small different pieces. Its size will change, but the chemical composition of that boulder does not change. That is, example we can see when we go for a trekking, the large piece of boulders will be there, and in the sides of that boulders we can also see a few small pebbles. That is an example of physical weathering, where the large boulders are broken down into fewer little pebbles. In physical weathering, it is also classified into different. That is, first one is repeated wetted and drying. That is an effective form of physical weathering, where the rocks contain clay, which may wet when it contains the water content. It may swell it, and due to the high temperature of the day or temperature from the day, it again shrink. This continuous action take place throughout, and slowly the rock loses its capacity and it may slowly break down. It's mainly acted upon the rock contain clay, such as shale, because shale has a high clay content, and due to the frequent action of heat and temperature and water content on these rocks, it slowly break or fall apart. Next is frost action or ice wedging. It's also about it's also about the rock. When these rocks or large boulders contain some the cracks or creaks in it, when due to the rain, these cracks may fill up with the water. During the night, it may freeze it due to the low temperature, and continuous freezing taken place, and melting also taken place. This may slowly increase the crack and help the rock to break. This is the diagram representing the frost and ice wedging on the rock. This is when these cracks may fill up with the water during the day, and it slowly freeze during the night. So this action takes place for a long period. Slowly this started to increase the crack of the rock. Slowly the rock began to fall apart. Next is loss of overlying rock and soil. When some rocks have a sheet joining structure, and slowly that sheet like structure slowly began to fall apart due to the erosion, degradation, decomposition and all. So it may loses exposure to the weathering. Second one is the chemical weathering or chemical decomposition. It takes place when the rocks minerals are changed into different substance. Mainly it is occurred due to the water. It is a main agent of chemical weathering. First, in chemical weathering, it can be divided into different: oxidation, hydrolysis, hydration, carbonation, etc. First one is oxidation. Oxidation is in that when oxygen react with some minerals, especially those contain iron, to form rust. That in simple words, that rock contain many minerals. Most of the rock contain iron. When these rock are exposed to the outside where from the our atmosphere contain oxygen which slowly react with the iron in the rock. So this oxygen help that iron to make rust, and slowly the rock began to corrode. Next is hydrolysis. It is the action of H plus and OH minus ions in the water. These ions may started to react with the minerals in the rock, which produce a weak acid, which helps this weak acid help the rock to break down. Slowly changes chemical composition. That is, it weakens our rock. Next one is hydration. When these minerals present in the rock started absorb water from the atmosphere or water from the surrounding regions, it slowly changes its chemical composition of the material. Next is carbonation. Carbonation is also almost like this, and when these rocks also contain minerals and we get rain from, no, these rain react with the pollutants like sulfuric acid, carbonic acid, nitric acid from the atmosphere, and it's mixed and changes to acid rain. When these acid rain fall down, and it slowly react with the minerals in the rock, and it forms a weak acid and started reacting with the rock and changes chemical composition. That is and started to dissolve rocks such as limestone, and will slowly dissolve because limestone contained a high calcium content, and these acids started reacting with the calcium. Next one is biological weathering. It can be due to both chemical and mechanical process. That is, in simple words, we can see that banyan trees growing on walls, rocks and all, because when this tree grow between these rocks, due to the pressure from the tree, rocks began to fall apart. And one more thing is that the trees also produce certain type of secretions and all, and those secretions from the plant root started to react with the rock. Slowly reacting with it, it also chemically change the rock's composition, and it started to break. Then burrowing of animals. That is, when that are animals like rat and all lives in burrow. When they dig these rocks or burrow in the land, so slowly they are the removing of they are throwing away the masses of these rocks. Slowly the rock began loosen up, and the strength of the rock began reduced, so they fall apart. First one is we can go into deeper, then we can check the lichens. Lichens are such of tiny plants that grow on rocks, which has a tiny roots and spores. It mainly grow on the cracks of the rock. When these roots grow deeper into this crack, it pull. Due to the strength of the root, the cracks began to widen and slowly break down. Next is action of plants and animals. That is, as first I saw, these rats and rabbit burrow in the ground, which reduce the strength of the rocks, such the rocks may fall apart. Then other than that, small organisms like earthworm, snail, like that and all, they produce a acidic secretion from their body, and these secretions react with these minerals present in the rock and slowly corrode these rocks, and it slowly reduces the strength of the rock, and it also forms chemically change the composition, and slowly the rock began to erode. This is an example of biological weathering, where the tree grows in between the rocks.